Good evening. So I took a long nap. I'm starting to demonstrate behaviors that are very common inside like jails or rest house, specifically just kind of like a recession towards sleeping. Let the days pass, but I don't want it to be so, and of course it's better than a rest or a jail because I can do some stuff here, so I need to fight it, this tendency to just decline into boredom and systematic lack of energy, which is so common to see in prison. Of course, the more possibilities I will have to do stuff, I guess that the more enthusiastic I will be to actually do it. And with, as they say, with the food comes the appetite also. With the possibilities to do things, also the energy manifests itself. Anyway, I will now hold the part of the today's lecture with regards to new theories on the natures of the neros, and what can I do to actually test the new theories, perhaps even in the very extremely limited limiting circumstances that I'm currently in, without even the microscope. So now, first of all, I should remind you, perhaps some of you are still skeptic about it, and I guess it's your right to be skeptic, but I stand by my truth, and that like the rituals or the voodoo ceremony that I do when I construct the paintings. I construct, the kind of like arrangements of painting and sculptures and all sort of stuff. It's not really voodoo, even if it seems like that. It's actually a way to communicate my intention towards the neros, and specifically, there is a color code which is mostly applied to. The color code has several functions inside this symbolic language, but the color of the compartment, like where the neros actually exist, or where the soup exists, it doesn't have to be soup, the neros or the soup exist. The color, and specifically the color of the dome, like the surrounding, because they always look up when they decide, when they decide what to do. They can distinguish between down and up. They understand gravity, and as I said many times, they expect light to come mainly from below, which is the opposite of what humans are used to, and they look up when for instructions or for general direction. So there is an issue of color code here, and I said that the different colors can signify completely different things. Specifically, as I said many times, the brown and yellow color signifies creation. Construction in the most basic. I think I don't know if basic is the correct word, but straightforward understanding of construction. They will search for material in their surrounding, and they will manipulate it, as we've seen many times that they can do, to create other stuff. This is like a basic mode of construction because it relates to where they actually stay, the actual neurons stay, and it's by manipulating the environment. And I've said that they can also do it ex nihilo, but to dramatically, less efficiently if it's white. It's not brown, yellow, but white cover. It should of course be said that their ability to do whatever they want, whatever not they want, but whatever action that they need to do. Their ability to do it is greatly affected by what energy they actually have at their disposal. And they need matter and they need energy. And of course, I'm working on it as well, and I'll speak about it just in a bit about energy issues. And I've also mentioned that the red paint signifies, unsurprisingly, blood, but not every kind of blood, but specifically, blood of biological creatures. I don't know why. It might sound trivial, but my blood is also red. But like my color code is silver, not red. I don't know why. And also, very importantly, there is the black color, which is the standard color when black is no light, which means that they can't see anything besides the symbolic the object that's part of the symbolic message. But other than that, they don't see anything at all. And then you actually manifest it, or you actually construct it by not exposing the compartment, by closing the container, besides the minimal light that is needed in order for the neurons to actually see stuff, because they need light in order to actually, without light they cannot see. So light is needed, but if the light that they are exposed to is enough only to see the symbolic forms, but not other things, they interpret it as the black color code, which signifies, of course, space, which is a theater, in the strategic, terminology, or the wartime terminology. It's I would say that space is the theater that, as I understand, people, around the world start to understand that is a relevant one. Finally, even though it was actually the first theater. When I started my symbolic paintings, it's more than a year ago, space was the low orbit around Earth. Low orbit not in the human sense, because when Homo sapiens say low orbit, they mean really close to really close to Earth, in geostationary orbits, which are very, very close to Earth. But low orbit can also be I don't know, maybe 100,000 kilometers from Earth, which is still low. Relatively low orbit, because you don't really need to be that close to Earth in order to fly lens. So for such spaceships, the notion of frozen far might not be, much human understanding of frozen far, which relies on their very limited launching capabilities, at least at that stage of their technological journey, which will probably be the last stage. So yeah, spaceships are important, and let's just speak a little bit about spaceships. So I'm. It's one of the, I mean, the motives in my art for a relatively long time now, and so this. Let's take a look maybe on like one like a typical drawing. Maybe painting, not drawing. Maybe you've seen it already. It's quite big, like in reality. Of course, this is Earth, and what you can see a lot is those like two spaceships that are look like two circles. Sometimes full circles, and sometimes one is like engulfing the other, and like a fire or radiation is coming like from one of it towards the Earth. The initial like meaning was very, I mean, like straightforward. Like, I mean, Earth will be bombarded by in radiation by spaceships, and part of the punishment for mankind. And also, I mean, this was usually those paintings were, I mean, accompanied by paintings of flags and maps in order to further like demonstrate, I mean, who will be punished and like who will not, and things like that. Having said that, from very early stages, I understood that, like, just by starting to paint it, I understood that that I paint something that has like potentially has many different like interpretation, and specifically it could be interpreted as something that microscopic or even nanoscopic. So from the start, I decided to name the spaceships Neros, and following that, I also decided to name the nanobots the Nero. That, I mean, when you speak about Neros now, I almost always refer to the nanobots that we've seen under the microscope. But you need to remember that I've only started to see them like with you, my audiences, a couple of months ago. I mean, on those it's like all of it is documented in this. Not all, but a lot of the material is just documented. I documented that my like scientific journey with full like this disclosure, and you know, and I've put anything like in everything that I've seen like in important in this YouTube channel, and this is all quite new actually. So even though I knew about the existence of the nanobots, and also I've speculated several like from time to time about like several aspects of their behavior, but it wasn't up until the last 2 months or so, it wasn't something that I focus like a main focus of my my discovery, the process of my discovery. And although I've rarely spoken about it, it wasn't a big issue. But I also named it the Neros, and now they are much. I'm much more focused on these guys. I mean, if not only because of the reasons that I can actually see it with my own eyes. I mean, the spaceships are out of my reach, but maybe you have some. I don't know if you've seen them. You have telescopes. I don't know if you have. I mean, and again, we need to remember that. I mean, who are you? I mean, you might be people from all over the world. So maybe some like saw them, maybe some other didn't. I don't know. But the interesting thing here is the fact that, I mean, what is this eight form? What does it mean, the eight form? And this is something that I also, I mean, I've repeated in my sculptures. Like the idea of the Nero is like both the spaceship and the nanobot is two circles, one a little bit about like not exactly but above the other. Now, we've actually seen in under the microscope that they do. It's a fact that they do. It was kind of a prophecy because they do tend to form these kind of formations. It's very common for them to actually form these kind of formations. And what we've always also seen is that this happens a lot when at least one of them is it contains the yellow pool inside him, which or further, I mean, makes it much more like makes it more like similar to the general symbolic like visual style of a spaceship. That's by the way, that's another like small, very small painting of the Nero spaceship, and say so you can see the two. It's an old one, I mean, relatively old from about a year ago, but you can see there the two circles, and you can see I mean the fire that blows, I mean that comes from inside, which is kind of similar to a lot of things that we've seen under the microscope, which is interesting. But the question is, so what are these yellow pools? Like, what do they mean? Let's take a look on, I mean, some of the yellow pools actually. So here you can see a lot of Neros, many Neros with no yellow pools, just for comparison. And here you can see many yellow pools, and this is actually you can see it in very like large magnification of about 1,000 or more. But you can see, but it's like something that you can see in many different like magnification levels. So which means that this is also a large magnification, but you can see that the yellow pools in several like in different magnification levels. Here you can see it in zoom out, relatively zoom out, so you can see a lot of them. Specifically here you can see the two like the adjacent ones, which is very common. And I've seen it, I mean, pretty early on, and actually I didn't pay enough attention to the phenomena as I should have, but there was so much things to discuss and doing. I mean, it was a hectic time when I all was documented in the YouTube, and I didn't really had like enough experience with microscopic works and the works of the Neros in order to even formulate theories regarding what we actually see. Perhaps a very early theory, which was completely false, was that, I mean, they are like active when they do it, whatever the word active means. This was, I mean, I thought about it because of thing. It should also be mentioned that we've seen a lot of those yellow pools in the most like successful slides from the beginning, specifically those, I mean, the couple of slides that were extremely successful with the bananas, the remnants, and also even more so with the fly. There were 2 or 3 slides with flies, and there was one which was extremely interesting. I mean, with that you have many replications, that you've seen the replications of many limbs. This was my favorite slides, and I refer to it a lot. And so we've seen a lot of it during the time, and what we've also seen, which was amazing, and up until now I can't explain it, and not even a theory, but it was amazing, that on a frozen slide, which was taken immediately out of the freezer, which was totally freezed. I mean, we've seen Neros with yellow pools and with moving life forms, biological or technique, I don't know, inside it. That was demonstrated and was shown in nearly more than one actually YouTube videos in this channel, which and I remember that I theorized, I didn't know, maybe I thought maybe they because I mean it's a really high likely to see moving germs in frozen slide. I mean, germs could be, of course, frozen and then like I mean revived, but not like immediately when you take it out of the freezer. And these were like moving animals. So I I hypothesized that what we actually see are not germs per se, but animalcules. I use the word animalcules, which is a word that was invented. If I'm not, I don't know if it was an invention, but it was a word used by the founder of microscopy, not of microscopy, but of microbiology, Van Leeuwenhoek, Anthony Van Leeuwenhoek. He used the word animalcules. So I used it specifically because I thought, okay, these are not germs. These are, but they are like very small creatures, animalcules, that are probably rejuvenated or created by the neurons. And the fact that I even thought about the idea of like, why should these like nanobots be able to actually create life? This was, built up on like, and on my own, like, I would say mythology, because it's not, but it was built on like a lot of other things that I've said, like during the last couple of years. Because I started like the research of the neurons, not like from blank state, but building on many things that I've like on the whole, like I would say, personal mythology and worldview, and my own like conspiracy theories that I've devised during the last couple of years, and a lot of things that relate to the secret history of the state of Israel and Zionism, and all those issues were were served like as perhaps not a scientific or like, and certainly not rigorous like rational like framework, but as a solid mythological, not in a fantastic sense, but in a more like in the vague sense that it explains it gives you clues to or keys to understand reality. So understand, okay, these creatures can create life. And this was, of course, proven later, because we've actually seen them creating worms, not only living creatures like animalcules. So I hypothesized that that perhaps the yellow pools are related. Both to the creation of these animalcules and also to serious work that they do. And that's why I said, okay, maybe this is like their active mode, like they are now on. But this is completely untrue, because the neurons don't have like an on and off mode. They can die, and actually it's not, I would say that it's not, for all microscopic creatures, it's not always very trivial to understand when they are dead or not, because if they don't move, they can just sometimes mostly they move very slowly, and mostly you cannot see under the microscope. You cannot actually see really identify what they are doing or can. This is true to all microscopes. It's not always true. For example, if you watch very large microscopes and you use very good microscopes, like you can see in the Journey to the Microscopic World, there is a good channel on YouTube that you can see wonderful microscopic stuff. But so you can actually you can see like big microbes eating or even farting and doing things like that. But this is only true for relatively big microbes, and also they have much better microscopes than I have. Not necessarily with much larger magnification levels, because there is a limit to how much you can achieve with your magnification with like optic microscope. It doesn't get much better than 2000. More than that, you actually need an electron microscope. But zoom level is not everything, and their microscopes are far superior to mine in other in optical parameters, and also they use different kind of microscopy, not only like backlight, which is the most the basic stuff. So in general, it's very difficult to actually see the actions of microbes, because they move slowly, and the actions are done in very small scale, and most of the actions are comprised of chemical reactions that cannot be shown visually, but you can deduce that they do things in all sorts of ways, which I will discuss in a bit. it is important to understand like how they look when they are dead, and there are several cases that I've actually seen, like graveyards of like neos that were actually were fortunately dead. That's like one example is this one. This is an example. So you can see dead ones. And I have more photographs that I currently don't I cannot quickly find when they're actually in even like a more advanced decomposition state. This is important, I would say, to understand how do they look when they are dead, for the purpose of the courses. Like, for example, if I want to create a curse is always, I mean, in the symbolic languages, curse is always positive in a way. I mean, positive in a way that you signify like the desired state. It's difficult to communicate like a negative, like to say. I mean, simply so. I mean, let's say you want like a fish to be dead. So you it's difficult to show a living fish and to signify like kill it. But it's much more simple to just show a dead fish. So it's the same with neos. If I want like to tell the neos, I mean, kill each other while you are in the body of human pigs that ate you. I mean, the best way is to draw. I mean, drawings or paintings of dead neos, and they have a clue how they look when they are dead, which is important. But it was quickly evident for me that it's not true that they are active when they have the yellow pulse, because I mean, they are always active, and I've actually caught them like red-handed doing stuff when they were without the yellow pulse. For example, I mean, there was one example, and it was in one of the videos that I caught like a neo detached from like all the rest in a place where like and he was clearly working on kind of like on a specific element of gardening or landscaping. How could you tell that? Because it was like a landscaping element in a slide, in a place in the slide where there were no other like elements, and you could have seen them. I mean, they move slowly because they are microscopic, but you could have seen that it actually moves, and the movement is not it was in an erratic way, not like if it moves like, I mean, just like in just one direct line. It's possible that it's just moving with the flow, because many times, I mean, microscopic slides, I mean, contain like small flows of liquid. This is very evident when you are zooming in to the maximum magnification. You can see like big flows. And it's also, of course, true if the slide was just prepared now, or if it was frozen and you took it out of the freezer. So I mean, the rivers start to thaw, and there are like large streams, and so you can see, I mean, the neo as other microbes, they just move with the flow. But if you see that it moves like in an erratic way like this, you can, I mean, then it's not a flow, and it's not like a liquid that is moving, but it moves by its own volition. So I mean, it was a sure thing way to understand it. I mean, yeah, I'm just seeing him working on this landscape element, and of course it didn't have the yellow pool. And another like evidence, like strong evidence to see a neo is like by where it actually you can actually found it. And this is a good example here. I like this photograph a lot. This query, this mining operation is taking place on like a sellotape, on like because I've used sellotape a lot for a long time, because I didn't have proper glass covers for the slides. So we used sellotape, and it was evident that they liked to use the sellotape like as a raw material. And this was seen. This was very evident in the slide with the flies, that they actually take part of the sellotape and they're using it for the sculptures of the flies. And I've actually seen it like while it happens. I mean, like you can't really they work so slow that you cannot actually see it like on real time, but that they take like a piece of sellotape and put it like in its place. But you can see that. I mean, you can see that. I mean, that you know that initially it's like it's just a fly and the Neros and the sellotape is in its place, and then you start to see those kind of scenes, and then you see, I mean, like these rocks that are made of sellotape like all over the place, and then I mean after like a week or so you don't see the rocks any like you don't see any more rocks like on the scene, but you see like a sculpture of the leg of a fly, of the whole fly like unfinished. This was demonstrated in these YouTube channels, and I think it's amazing. And I mean, I think it's a proof that they used that they used the sellotape in order to create the sculpture that is an imitation of specific parts of the fly or the whole fly. So what you can see here is kind of scene, and you can see Nero here, and actually I think there is more than one. No, there is another photograph where you can see another one, but. So you can ask yourself, I mean, what the hell is he doing there? I mean, like, and you know, when I place the semen on the slides, like I place it like, you know, in one drop. So they should all be, I mean, relatively, I mean, on the same place, not on the entire of the slide. So, I mean, there is no other explanation besides for its existence, for the Nero existence in this query, besides that he actually working on this query. So this is another like evidence of like that. I mean, they walk, and it's not, they don't have the yellow pools inside them when they walk. Now, another issue, I mean, that I've spoken about is that many times you see the yellow pools, like, I mean, without the Neros, like they all just left there, like in the round shape, and sometimes they start to, I mean, to you know, to dissolve into like, I mean, to break like the almost perfect circle, and to start like to see like muddy pools. I mean, without any Nero around, and so, and this means that, like either the Nero died. But then, I mean, where is its body? Because we can see that, I mean, when they die, we still see their bodies. Or most, I mean, the probable explanation is that, I mean, they left. I mean, they finished their stuff, like, I mean, to do whatever they wanted with the yellow pool, and they left and put it beside there. Put it like there for whatever. Which signifies to us it is kind of like a pseudo-biological procedure, like, I mean, like a snake that is shedding his skin or something like that. And we are starting, like, I'm starting to building towards like my conclusion. I don't know if you guess already what I mean. Do you? So another thing that, I mean, and another very closely related issue is the issue of how is it possible that we see Neros in so many different sizes? It's one of them, like the defining characteristics is that they come in in many different sizes. And as I've said many times, I don't actually know how small they can get and how big they can get, because I mean, perhaps they can be huge. I don't know. Perhaps they can be huge as spaceships, or at least the tuna cans. As I've said before, I mean, if it's one in the size of like of a Nero, like of a candle, the Nero candle could be, I mean, a weapon of mass destruction. And the one that is the size of a tuna can could actually like be as strong as a like a Star Wars Death Star. I mean, because think how strong they are, how capable they are when they are in the microscopic level. And we also don't know how small they can get, because, I mean, we are limited by my microscope. I mean, even in the maximum zoom in that I can use, which is magnification of 1500, we see them. We clearly see those guys. So maybe they can be as, I mean, certain, I'm almost certain, 100% certain that they exist in the nanoscopic level. That's why I call them nanobots. Otherwise, I mean, they should be called microbots. but I'm almost certain they start in nanoscopic level. But who knows? Maybe they can start like in such level that are, I mean, outside like the realm of like established physics. I mean, like in the quantum level or like subatomic level, which doesn't make any sense from the point of view of the established physics. But we have already seen many times that you cannot explain the achievements and their behavior using the current physical knowledge of humankind. So maybe they can be extremely unbelievably small, like Ant-Man level small, like in the movie. I haven't seen the last one, but I've seen the first one. And many times I've speculated that they just go larger and larger. That they start their life small and they go larger. But I've said many times that it's not the only possibility. It's possible that perhaps they start large and they split to smaller sizes. I don't know. But actually, both of these theories doesn't sit well with evidence. And I'll tell you why. Because if it was true that they start very small and they grow, I mean, there's I don't have enough evidence and information, but I've seen enough to I have enough experience with the news, and also I've enough material, evidence that I've posted in YouTube to greatly question this theory, because I try to explain why, and I know it will not be like a rigorous explanation, but I hope that you are able to understand the general notion. It's kind of mathematical, but I don't have the mathematical I didn't formulate it mathematically, but it's the following argument is based on mathematics, but marketplace mathematics, not in university class mathematics. So I would say the following: if it was true that they start very small, doesn't matter if it's in the nanoscopic scale or in the quantum scale or whatever, and they just go larger, it's mathematically, statistically probable that there will be considerable more of the smaller ones than the bigger ones, and that that the bigger ones will be much more rare, because they all start small, but not all of them. Because if it's true that they start small and they go bigger, not all of them go bigger. All start small, but only some of them have the opportunity to, or the energy or the material or whatever, or the lifespan or whatever. Only few will have the circumstances to actually go larger with time. So it makes sense that you will see that there will be much more smaller ones than bigger ones. Now, it's probably true anyway, because if you zoom in to whatever level that you can with a microscope and you see neos, it means that there are much more smaller ones than bigger ones. Because when you zoom in, you see more. You see much more. So yes, there are much more smaller ones. But even on the same zoom level, without changing magnification, you can see different sizes of neos, and it's not necessarily true that you see more smaller ones than bigger ones on the same level, which is something that should have been demonstrated. And it's not true. if you like watch the videos and the many photographs, it's not true that on a specific zoom level, it's not true that there are like much more like smaller ones than bigger ones. It's actually not true. The size variations, it's kind of like it's a mixed bag. And this is, it's difficult to explain that mathematically. Because you would expect that even on the same like zoom level, you would get much more smaller ones, relatively smaller ones than the bigger ones, because only some of the smaller ones like had the chance to actually grow larger. But that's not the case. So what I think now is happening is actually that they grow or bigger, that they do grow bigger, but they replicate themselves, and the replication takes place in any zoom level, like in wherever whatever size that they are, they can replicate themselves, and they actually do it. And this explains to us why we can see, relatively many, like more big ones than could have been expected if the growth theory was the only one that explained the distribution of size. Because if they replicate themselves and they can do it in any size, the factor that will determine how frequent you can see a given size in any like cell, in any area, would be how many times they had the chance to replicate themselves, more than how what's the it will be much more important than the question of did they have the opportunity or the correct circumstances in order to grow and from presumably smaller size, because they can replicate themselves at any size. So and the replication is much more efficient in growing, because you don't need to grow to do the whole process from small to big. You can just replicate itself while you are big enough. And this can explain the mathematical distribution, the frequency of the sizes that you can actually see. And this is demonstrated many times. And many times you can see actually that that the ones that contains the yellow pools are adjacent to other ones. And sometimes you can even see them on many times. It's you can actually see one that is above the other one, completely above it, or like that. Again, like this, like here, okay. Or in the spaceship paintings, while one of them is with the yellow pool. So, by now you understand where I'm going. I think that I now think that it's a valid theory that should be further. I don't have the microscope, so it's going to be very. I can't really, conduct any meaningful research in this on this, but I really think that it's a possibility that the yellow pools it signifies pregnancy, and the fact that you can see, and the fact that we saw many times when we had for the really big narrows, we've seen that they are they tend to we found the big pregnant ones near or above a pudding of living creatures, synthetic or biological, doesn't matter, could mean that they actually ate those stuff or consumed them while they were pregnant, and at the end of the pregnancy, thus a new neuro is released to the world, which is roughly the same size as its parent. And then they just leave the yellow pool and go for, so the daddy or the mother or whatever, you call the gender, they just go to their, to wherever, and they leave the yellow pool beside them. It's like the water, like the water is break, and they continue on their whereabouts. Now, this will explain. This theory could explain why we could have seen so many Neros, not only yellow pool Neros, but also, any kind of Neros. You could have seen a huge amount of them on the slides that were more successful. It's the ones with specifically the ones with the flies and the bananas that were so successful. And initially I thought that they were successful for some reason, and that I don't understand, and that the yellow pools is like part of the success. I linked the phenomenon of the yellow pool with very active Neros, and I thought, okay, because they're so active, they show the yellow pools, and they also do a lot of stuff, and that's why we've seen so much nice work on the slides. That's why I consider the slide successful, because we can see stuff mining operations and replicas and things like that. But now, my theory is that what we actually seen is the following. For some reason, and this should still be discussed, and I will do it just in a second. For some reason, there was something in the conditions of the preparation of the slides, the material. The freezer. The symbolic language that I used, maybe even not without understanding, because much of, I've done many times, especially during the beginning, I didn't understand. I had very basic knowledge of the symbolic language, so I conveyed messages without understanding what I was conveying. But, this all this combined, the symbolic messages that I conveyed, knowingly or not, and the material and the conditions, all caused the Neros to do whatever they can to get pregnant. To do their threesomes and to get pregnant and to multiply. And that's why we've seen so much of them, because they multiplied like crazy. And when they finished multiplying, the consequence is that there were many of them, and that's why we can see so many of them. And because there were so many of them, they were actually able to produce that much work, because this is the defining, the most important factor of how much work they can do is how many are there, how many do we have, especially big ones, because the big ones can do naturally as bigger they are, they more work they can do. It also, it's also affected by other stuff, do they have the raw materials, which they had, they had the sellotape, which, they used, which was, but as I say, I think that, they can use a lot of many raw materials. They are not that picky with the raw materials. So, they should have raw materials, and sellotape is a good raw material, but other stuff as well could be very, as we've seen, they can use iodine solution and hydrogen peroxide and the metal from the rods of the electrolysis in order to create worms, like living worms, and this was demonstrated many times. So this signifies that they are pretty good at utilization of matter. So even iodines and iron or whatever metals that were there are enough for them to actually create life forms, relatively big living moving life forms. So the matter is not, they need matter, but it's probably not that difficult to actually supply them with matter, and they also need energy, which is an important subject that I want to discuss. Maybe I'll do it just today. And of course they need the messages. They require communication with mostly with me. And they need the work, the numbers. They need enough. They need to be many of them. And we see that they work in coordination. Of course, they work in coordination, and this is evident in first of all, it's evident by the things that they do. They do amazing stuff that can only be achieved by cooperation. But the cooperation can actually be seen in the photographs, you can see that many of them they are walking in groups. This is evident in many photographs that they move and they walk in groups. You can see it many times. It's evident. For example, even this is like the one that I've already showed you now. It's kind of an example. It's not the distribution that was, when I just put like the sperm, like the semen drop on the slide. It's distribution that they created by themselves in order to walk, to do something, to work on something. This is very... Let's search for another one, maybe. Just a second. Just to demonstrate their ability to work in groups. It's evident by the outcome of the work, by the artifacts that they build. But let's just, this is as you can see, this is an example of what I said about the distribution, in which there are no, the number of big ones is not significantly smaller than the number of smaller ones, which you would expect if the growing theory and not the replication theory had been the correct one. Just a second. How could you explain the creation of such an artifact without like an enormous cooperation? And this is a pretty big one. It's done in in 60 magnification, which is the smaller, or 40, the smallest that I currently have in the microscope. And it's so the neurons that created that, many of them worked like in tandem and to create amazing, intricate stuff. Here you can see them working together like in obviously coordinated way. So all of this is leads us to this theory. This theory is of course, in the practical sense, it leads us to try to understand, what made them multiply in the most successful slides, in order to replicate those conditions or the symbolic commands, because we can see that it's very beneficial when they get into pregnant and they multiply, because then there are more and they can do more job, like more stuff, and so we need to think about both the conditions and the message, like what can be the message. Regarding the conditions, I would say that I think that it's something to do both with temperature, like they like to do it when it's cold. They don't like to get into pregnant when it's too warm. They prefer to do it in freezing conditions. And also, my guess, it might sound funny, but I guess that it's something to do with sound, not necessarily the sound itself, but maybe the vibration that are caused by the monotonic sounds of the transformer that you can actually found in any freezer or refrigerator. And maybe perhaps the most important aspect is the magnetic the magnetic field that they are in. That magnetic influence that you can actually. Because they were stored in the freezer, like on the shelf that is adjacent to the door, which is, as we know, it's highly magnetic. And maybe they like to get into pregnant when they are in a magnetic field. It might sound like funny, but I mean, again, I need to start somewhere, and I can say that indeed we've seen that they did it, like they got into. I mean, they multiplied when these were the conditions: the freezing temperature, the noise of the transformer of the freezer of the refrigerator, and the magnetic influence. I forgot the correct word, so I say influence, but like the Ashra magnetic, like I don't know how to say it in English. So this, of course, leads me to try to replicate those terms. I'm not going to use the freezer here in the hostel, as I've said before. I promise I'm not going to do it. I mean, I only freeze like things that were not affected or touched the Neos in any way. Like, I mean, like water that I drink or things like that. So, because I don't want anyone to. I know that there are many people in the hostel that are part of intelligence organization. So, and maybe they don't want. Maybe they are not on board the whole the idea of using the freezer of where the food is placed for such experiments. So no, I only freeze my own stuff. I'm not going to freeze anything that touch the Neos. But it's not the only reason. But I mean, even if I could, I'm not going to do it. It's much preferable that I will try not to use freezer, but to use my own experiment contraption or devices that simulate. I mean, that actually have the correct conditions for what I want to achieve from the Neos. That might, I mean, it's better to actually understand, I mean, what's going on, to replicate the important things and not to just do exactly what you've done before and with the hope of getting good results. So yes, I do try to my current line of research, and again, I'm very limited by not having microscope and not having no materials and literally zero money. But I will do whatever I can to actually try to resume my experiments with cold environment, and mostly using just ice, and using the sounds of the transformer, and most importantly, getting back to magnetizing the containers where the Nero soup is placed. It's something that I've done in the past, but I need to continue working on it. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's a long video now, so we'll stop here, and just, I mean, as a cliffhanger for this whole episode, and actually for the 3 episodes of all 3 videos that I posted today, I mean, one could just, as like a an ominous cliffhanger. I mean, one could ask themselves, I mean, people can ask themselves, can the spaceship also replicate themselves? Dun dun dun.